Should lesbians have children?
I think it's anyone's right to have a child, whether they want one. If they want one, then they have the right to have one.
I think if you want to be a mother, that, you have the right to be a mother.
Be a lesbian and you want a child, and that's your business.
It's the quality of mothering or the quality of parenting that makes kids grow up and be good people.
That's what they had to say. Now it's your call.
CN8's Emmy Award-winning It's Your Call with Lynne Doyle starts now.
Good evening and thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Lynne Doyle. It's great to have you with us for what I think will be an interesting debate on parenthood. Simply put, we want to know if you think gays can make good parents. We're asking this because Mary Cheney, the lesbian daughter of Vice President and Mrs. Cheney, has announced that she and her partner are expecting a child. Now, some took this news as no big deal, but others find it objectionable and unconscionable. Quotes. Those offended by Ms. Cheney's decision claim their disappointment lies with the fact that this child will not have a father. But supporters say the child could grow up in a loving home with two parents, albeit two mothers. And that love and that commitment, that's what really defines a family. They point to celebrities like Rosie O'Donnell or someone like Melissa Etheridge, and they say, hey, these are examples of good lesbian mothers, despite their sexual preference. We want to know what you think. Should lesbian and gay couples have kids? That's one of our questions. And then there's the whole debate about how these kids are conceived. What do you think about the whole artificial insemination and the sperm donor thing? Do you think it's unnatural, or is it part of our world today? If you want to tell us what you think, you go ahead and give us a call. But first, right off the top, let's meet our first guest who has some experience in this area. Helen Casal is a lesbian mother of 2.5-year-old twins. She became pregnant by way of alternative insemination using an anonymous donor. She's also a family law attorney who represents many same-sex couples in custody and adoptions matters. And we're so glad that you're back with us.
Thank you, Lynne.
Do you think you're a good mother?
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope my 2.5-year-old twins think that. And I think most people that I've met, and doing it for 2.5 years now, I'm trying my best. That's all that I can say at this point.
Should your sexual preference play any role whatsoever in how society looks at you as a parent?
Well, it's interesting because in your introduction, you talked about lesbian mothers. I see myself as a mother. I don't necessarily see myself as a lesbian mother. I mean, that's what comes first. And my sexual orientation and my lifestyle shouldn't impact on my parenting skills, and I don't think that it does. And I don't think my 2.5-year-old twins would think that either.
Are you offended when people say that you're doing a disservice to your children because there's not, quote, a man in their lives?
Well, first of all, that wouldn't be true. I mean, there are a lot of male figures in my children's lives, uncles and grandparents and cousins and friends in my social network. So I don't necessarily think that that's an accurate statement. But am I doing a disservice to my children? I mean, my children have two loving parents that wanted them, that have chosen to have them, and are doing their best in what is in their best interest. So that's all that I can do at this point.
At the same time, though, you would admit that it is a non-traditional family that you have created, and for the children that down the road, maybe not at 2.5, but down the road sometime, this might present certain opportunities or challenges or difficulties for them that children in a two-parent heterosexual family might not encounter.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that when my partner and I decided to have a family, we're going through that decision process. That's obviously one of the things that we thought about. And you think about the challenges that your children are going to face, whether you're in a non-traditional relationship, or let's say you're in a traditional relationship, you're in a heterosexual relationship, and you find out that you're going to have a special needs child. You're now making certain decisions once that child is born, the challenges that your child is going to face. I don't see that that's any different from the decision that my partner and I made in order to have a family.
All right, on that note, we're going to ask you what you think about gays and lesbians having kids. Do you think it's in any way bad for kids not to have a father or a mother in the household? And what happens to these children if the partnership breaks up? Who should get legal custody? The person who was the bearer of the children, or the one who's a better parent? Lots of questions that are involved in this debate. Many ways for you to be interactive with us. As you know, you can give me a call. It is toll-free from wherever you are watching all over the country. You can also give us a try at cn8.tv. Email us or take our web poll. You can also send me an It's Your Call electronic message. That's an email of 60 characters less. Gets you on the air right away. Or you could go online and send us a video mail. While we're waiting to hear from you, and I can see the telephone lines are lighting up very quickly, we want to find out what the rest of our panel has to say about this. It's a great group we've brought together, including Lynne Gold Bikin, who is a nationally known family law attorney and a partner at Wolf Block. Joining us tonight from Ontario, Canada, is Reverend Tristan Emmanuel, who is the founder and president of ECP Central. He stands for Equipping Christians for the Public Square. He's also an ordained minister and an author as well. We welcome him to the show for the first time. Rounding out our panel is an old friend, Bill Devlin, who is a self-practicing theologian. And it's great to have everyone here with us. Thank you very much. But it is Bill that I am putting on the It's Your Call hot seat tonight. I have to tell you, I know there are a lot of people sitting at home saying, you know, Helen is committed to her children. Sure. What's wrong with it? It's better to have two moms or two dads who care about the kids than an absent father or a mother who could care less.
Yeah, actually, Lynn, great question, because I am from a non-traditional family. My dad, due to alcoholism, left home when I was 15 years old. Saw him again a few years later, and then my mother, 8 months later, dropped dead, literally hanging our clothes, our wash, on her backyard, Easter Sunday morning, because of stress, alcoholism. So I was basically from a no-parent family, ended up over in Vietnam. So I had to struggle with those issues. So from a non-traditional family. However, I think we need to go back. You know, we need to have standards in our culture. Why for 10,000 years, Lynn, have children always been raised by a mom and a dad? I believe that every little boy and every little girl has a right to be raised by a mother and a father, not just a female figure and a father figure, but really a mom and a dad who are physically present and emotionally connected in their lives.
And yet, Lynn, for 10,000 years, it doesn't necessarily mean that moms and dads have been doing it right.
That's exactly
Exactly.
right. And
No,
not only
I would
that,
agree to that.
And Bill, I hate to say it, but you came out pretty good from a non-traditional family. A little bit warped on one end, but pretty good.
Well,
the fact is,
you.
we haven't been
Thank
doing
you,
it for
Lynn.
10,000 years.
Yeah.
And indeed, if you look back at history, just look back at the last 2,000 or 3,000 years, women died very young in childbirth.
Sure.
So men were raising children alone with nannies. So we haven't had the traditional families that you talk about. And today, 50% of all marriages end in divorce.
True.
So there are many, many single-parent households. And it isn't the fact of an absent dad or an absent mom that questions how these children will come out. As a matter of fact, I'm very fond of saying, and I challenge you to look at a schoolyard of 100 children and pick out the ones that are raised by lesbian or gay parents. You can't do it.
Well, I think we need to have a standard. And Lynn, you have a standard. Helen has a standard. I'm sure all the viewers have a standard. I think the normal standard is that a mother and a father. You look, 25 million children will go to bed in America without a dad present in the home. 90% of men in Pennsylvania prisons, and every prison, are from father-absent homes. 99% of men in gangs are from father-absent homes. So I think fatherhood does mean something to young men and to young women.
What about the children that are being raised by the women who are left behind while these guys are in prison?
Understood. And again, I think we need to stand up as adults and courageously say that we need a mother and a father for gender identity purposes in the home.
First of all,
no question.
90% of gay and lesbians are raised by heterosexuals. So don't give me that.
I'm sure. But again, what's the standard?
No,
I'm sure that you have a standard. You wouldn't agree
Bill,
that
forget the
we
standard.
should
Standard
have...
doesn't mean anything. No, let me just finish.
Sure, we have to have standards. You're a lawyer, Lynn. We have to have standards.
What
You
we
have
have
standards
to have
when you
is
walk into the
loving
courtroom.
parents. No, loving parents, whether it be male or female, or male and male, or female and female. Loving parents.
All right, I want to bring Reverend Emmanuel into the conversation. Thank you very much for your patience and for joining us this evening. Do you see this? Do you see this as a question of whether a male-female relationship creates a better home or better parenting, or do you see it as lesbians should not be reproducing?
Well, first of all, let me say thanks for having me on the show. And also, it's really odd speaking to people I can't see, but I'm sure we'll work through this. I want to back up and say, while I appreciate the discussion, I think part of the problem is the way the question has been defined. You talked about the importance of love, and you have committed parents, two women who love each other. And that's great in that sense. But, you know, love, as important as it is not the only configuration or factor that's important in raising children. And I think Bill does raise the point. Ideally speaking, like we've talked about the exceptions to the rule, and unfortunately in our culture, in our society, there are far too many exceptions. But ideally, it is better for children to have a committed father and a mother in a monogamous, faithful relationship. That is the ideal. It is better for children. since you brought up an anecdotal situation, you interviewed that young lady. I can't tell if she's young or old, so I'm going to say young, okay? I take it you wouldn't be offended by me saying young. Anyways, you had your experience, and you've talked about your twins, and I could appreciate you've got a personal story to tell, but like Bill, myself, I come from a non-traditional family. I grew up in a single-parent family. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I struggled intently with as a teenager and as a young adult is understanding my identity and what it means to be masculine. And there is no woman on the planet that can teach me that, as good as moms are and as good as my mom was. See, the issue isn't womanhood.
So you're saying that you have to have a man in your life to teach you how to be a man?
Yeah, you do. Because both sexes provide an important balance in defining and creating our identity as human beings.
Do you have to have a biological connection? I mean, couldn't you just
a biological connection?
You couldn't just have a good example?
But in terms of example, they also need to have a committed example. And, you know, you could have a father who adopts a boy, and certainly that's going to have its challenges, but that's far better than having just an uncle or just a grandfather that is involved. I mean, nature abhors a vacuum, and when young boys especially don't have a committed father figure in their life who is identifiably their father, that creates untold consequences for them in their identity as they struggle to understand who they are.
Okay.
And that's one of the problems here.
Let's get some reaction
in this debate.
Well, it doesn't make any sense as far as you're not talking about.
It makes complete sense.
You're not talking about reality. If I could, please. You're not talking about reality. You're not talking about the reality of families today.
Pardon me.
What I think that our family provides.
My experience here. No, don't tell me I'm not talking about reality. I'm talking about my very own experience. And my experience dovetails the experience of many other men.
Well,
and you just heard Bill talk about his experience.
Doesn't talk about every other family in the nation that's raised by either single mothers or single fathers or grandparents or anyone else. Your one experience doesn't define every family in the nation.
Universally. That's the same argument we could use for gays and lesbians. Being that they are a minority, how can you use their minority status to create a universal law or universal
And I'm certainly not doing that. That's not what I'm sitting here doing.
If what you're saying, Reverend, is true, why aren't you focusing on getting more male teachers for children? Why are we allowing... excuse me, let me just finish.
I am.
Excuse me, let me just finish. Why are we not saying that all schools have to have an equal number of male and female teachers from 2nd and 3rd grade? Too many of these young children, and we've seen the statistics, by the way, of minority children in 3rd and 4th grade losing interest, these little boys, because they only have older women teaching them. If you really need a male figure, a committed male figure, why aren't we saying we need to have same-sex classrooms, and we need male teachers with the boys and female teachers with the girls?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
Yeah, Lynn, my response to all this is we really have to look as a culture, as a society, as a nation, as a country, what really is in the best interest of children. I appeal to your viewers, and I know that we're going to have an It's Your Call poll, but I appeal to your viewers to say, well, what is right? What is wrong? What's the standard? What's in the best interest of children? Do children need fathers?
Well,
I mean, but basically what I think I hear is that fathers, and perhaps if we had some gay men on, well, they would say, well, we have female figures in the home that can be replacement mothers. No, we need mothers and fathers in the home, emotionally connected and physically present.
Well, that's wait a second, everybody. I have to take a break, but that's going to be the question we are asking our viewers. What do you think? Do kids need a mother and a father, or do they need two parents, regardless of their sex, who just love them and are committed to them? If you want to tell us what you think, lots of people on the telephone line, but you can also email me, take that web poll at cn8.tv. We'll be back with the answer, at least your answers, to those questions right after this. And I do want to send a very special invitation to our viewers from Boston to interact with us. You are our featured city of the evening.
I don't have a problem with gay couples having children.
I'm absolutely for gay couples having children.
Well, I think they should have children. I mean, being a parent is about love. It's not about whether you're gay, not gay. I think it's fine. I think it's a personal choice. And nobody should tell somebody what they should or should not do. A good home's a good home.
That's what they had to say, but now we're giving you an opportunity to tell us what you think about gays having and raising children. Many people feel that this society needs to have set values of a mother and a father in one home. Other people say as long as there is love in that home, really doesn't matter what the sexual preferences of the parents. If you want to tell us what you think, this is the interactive segment of the show, so you can give us a call or you can email us. Let's take our very first call of the evening, and it comes from Latoya. Latoya, good to have you with us.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm good.
Tell me what you think.
I was raised by two lesbian parents, and I had a great childhood. We had an abundance of love, and the father not being at home did not make a difference to me and my sisters.
Was it difficult for you at any time to try to explain to other kids or other people in the neighborhood or whatever that you had not one mom but two moms?
It wasn't different than any of the other things children go through in school, the teasing. It was, my parents taught me how to deal with it at an early age. And once you get through that, I mean, it's simple, you know, little Susie has pigtails and got her hair pulled. Well, I wasn't little Susie. They said, you know, talk about, well, your mom likes me. Well, my mom likes adult women, not young women. So that was the only issue that I had to deal with. But regardless of that, my mom explained it to me at an early age what it was all about, and we had a great childhood.
All right. Thank you, Latoya. I appreciate your comment. Helen?
Well, I think that's one of the things that, you know, being raised in a non-traditional family, as Bill said that he was, and as the Reverend said that he was, you know, raising my children and even being a family law attorney, what I have learned is that you have to teach tolerance. And in a non-traditional household with a same-sex couple, we're doing that early on because we are realizing there may be certain challenges that our children may face, and we have to think about what are those challenges going to be. Teaching them tolerance, teaching them love, making sure that they understand what problems they may encounter. But like the caller said, how is that any different from any other challenge? For example, a child having some sort of disability, or a child having, you know, a learning disability or a physical disability. I don't see that it's any different.
All right, we'll ask our viewers what they think about that. If you want to respond to Helen or to Latoya, go ahead and give us a call. While we're waiting for those calls to come in, we're going to check in with our It's Your Call correspondent, Bruce Casella. He is on the loose tonight. Bruce on the loose, we call him, at the Irish Pub in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Bruce, what are you finding out there?
Well, Lynn, we're finding out a lot of great things. And we're here at a stagehand party for the holidays, and they were very grateful for us being here, and we're happy to be here as well. First, I've got Kelly. Hello, Kelly. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Let me ask you, Kelly, there's a lot of questions about the situation here. Do you think lesbian couples should be able to have children through artificial insemination?
Why is there a lot of questions about the party being here with that question?
Well, because we're here and we have a question for you, and you've been nice enough to say you'll answer it for us. So what do you think? What do you think about that?
I think it's a wonderful thing.
Okay. What do you think about having the lack of parents, lack of a father, say, in a lesbian situation?
There's a lack of fathers without a lesbian relationship. There's a lack of fathers out there that are not very fatherly anyway, so what's the difference?
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Kelly. Let's go over now to Brooke. Brooke, let me ask you that question. What about the lack of a father in a lesbian situation, or the lack of a mother in a gay relationship with two males?
Well, there are plenty of single parents out there who have absent parents, whether they are male or female, and a lot of parents, you know, make do. They compensate with grandparents and aunts and uncles, and I don't think sexual orientation has to do a lot with parenting. You know, you love your children for who they are, and it doesn't matter what their orientation is. You know, it's not something that I don't think comes into play.
So you have no problem at all with two lesbians raising a child, or two males raising a child?
Not at all. I think as long as you have a loving home, that's what counts. Because there are parents who have volatile relationships and they're heterosexual couples, and, you know, how does that benefit a child being male or female?
Brooke, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it. And happy holidays to you.
Thank you, you too.
All right. Lynn, that's it. We'll be back with a couple more later on in the show. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Bruce. That's why we always identify that segment as live and uncensored. You never know what people are going to say. But I do think that they raised a couple of good points that I wanted the Reverend to comment on. One, Kelly, I believe, one of our viewers pointed out, Reverend, that in this day and age, sadly, in this country and in your country as well, there are many homes that are lacking a father, whether it started out as a traditional family or a heterosexual relationship, or whether it's lesbian or gay relationships, but that exists in our society. So why pinpoint homosexuals and say, well, they really should do things in a more traditional manner?
Well, you know, I think in a sense the question is a little irrelevant. But I tried to point out earlier was that I realize we have broken families. Let's call it what it is. These are broken families. These are the exception to the standard, as Bill talked about. So we have to live with the reality that in a fallen world, with a world where there are problems, we have to try to make do. But the ideal, see, I've been talking about the ideal. What is the ideal? And you've brought up examples of people who live in single-parent families or who have experienced hardship in the traditional heterosexual family. And you've appealed to a lot of examples of the lack of the ideal. But the question is the ideal worthy of striving for? That's the issue. And in my books, it's worth striving for. There's no doubt there's exceptions to the rule. But they're all, you know, and the other problem I have with the way the debate is framed, it sounds to me like only gays and lesbians are the virtuous parents. When the reality is there are plenty of examples of bad parenting amongst homosexuals.
There are plenty of examples of bad parenting among heterosexuals. And the fact is, 50% of all, excuse me, Reverend, 50% of all marriages end in divorce.
No one is.
But the ones that don't end in divorce.
The question is the ideal worthy of striving for?
But it's your ideal, sir. It's your ideal, not anyone else's ideal.
Lynn,
it is an ideal.
Yeah, Lynn, I think there's obviously two opposing world views here. There is what I would call a human-centered worldview. I don't want to get, I am a self-practicing theologian. That's what it says at the bottom of the screen. There's a man-centered or a human-centered worldview, and then there's a God-centered worldview, and you can live your life by God's standards, or you can live your life by human standards. And we're not.
So wait, as a homosexual, I'm not living my life.
So I think that you have to look at yourself and say, well, there's a standard. I happen to follow a standard. It's the New Testament.
So that's your standard, Bill.
I don't expect everyone to follow that same standard. I can appeal to them in love, but I think it also
but then don't define what is the ideal family. That's your standard of the ideal family, and I'm listening to that.
If you look at humankind for 10,000 years, hold on, Rev. I think for 10,000 years, I think we, in every culture, in every race, in every color, we've decided for 10,000 years that it does take a mother and it does take a father.
Who decided that? Stop it. Read the Bible, not the parts that you like to quote. Bill,
there are all kinds of examples
in the Bible. You have polygamy. You got one
by the way,
father
as far as tolerance, I kind of feel a little intolerant since I'm a guy and fathers really don't matter. I mean, where's the tolerance towards me?
We're all going to take a breath here because when you all talk at one time, no one can hear what anyone's saying. I'm going to take a break. We're going to regroup here. If you want to tell us what you think, go ahead and give us a call. We are talking about parenting and which kind of parents are the best for our kids. You tell us what you think when we come back. We'll hear from John, Dave, and Jeanette, and of course, you on the other side. Welcome back, everyone, to It's Your Call, where we have talked a lot over the last 10 years and counting about gay and lesbian rights. Tonight, we're focusing on it in a little bit of a different manner. We're asking you what you think about gays as parents. And the debate here is not so much whether gays, we've talked a little bit about whether they should have children in the manner in which they have them, but rather if you support the ideal of having a lifestyle that is a mom and a dad and a traditional, what's been known as traditional family, or if you think it doesn't matter so much anymore in the society in which we live, if the only thing that's important is whether a child has two people who love them. Doesn't matter if there's two women, two men, whatever. That's the question. If you want to tell us what you think, go ahead and give us a call, email us, or take that web poll. Let's check check in and see what you all are saying about that. The numbers are at 60-40 at this point when we're asking whether they should have kids. It's another way that you can tell us what you think. It's non-scientific and often changes through the course of the show. More importantly, though, we want to take your phone calls. A lot of people have been waiting a very long time, including John. John, good to have you with us. Welcome to It's Your Call.
Hi, Lynn.
Tell me what you think.
Nature selected us through natural selection, the ability to reproduce between a man and a woman. And I say, have your lifestyle, but leave the traditional family sacred. This way the population will sustain itself naturally. You need good parents, a loving mother and father to have balance. Thank you.
Thank you. Some response? Lynn?
Oh, please. You know, I look at the wonderful people that are raised by a single mom and a single dad. It doesn't matter what they're heterosexual or homosexual. We see so many families in my practice where there are abusive men or abusive women. They're heterosexual, but they're abusive, and the children see this, and they learn. Children learn from watching their parents, and abusive men come from watching their abusive dads, and abusive women come from watching their abusive moms, and alcoholic moms or alcoholic dads teach their children. So it isn't the heterosexual nature of the relationship, it is the kind of examples they give. Leave It to Beaver was a television show 40 years ago.
Right.
That's not what life is today.
Best. That's right.
It's not what life is
but
today.
But conversely, won't some of those same issues that affect traditional families, abusiveness, alcoholism, desertion, won't that ultimately at some point affect gay and lesbian relationships as well? It does already.
Which is the fact that what it comes down to is loving parents. A child who gets
no,
the
it's
security.
not. It's not.
Excuse me, can
love
I just
is
finish?
very important.
It's giving a child security in knowing that they're loved, that they're respected, that they're admired, and setting an example for them in the way you live. If you have a dad who is gay, children learn, little boys learn how to pee just the way their father does. It doesn't teach them how to have kind of an interpersonal relationship.
Go ahead,
That is not the only factor. Well, the problem in this debate is no one's debating these other issues. The question is the ideal worthy of striving for? And this seems to be avoided. And I'm saying simply it is worth striving for. Nature abhors a vacuum. The ideal is better than the contrary. And if the ideal is that boys need and girls need a good, loving dad, why are we not trying to encourage that? Why are we not trying to bolster that and find ways to remedy that problem, then come up with every alternative solution under the sun? That seems to me to be illogical.
You know, what's interesting.
Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
What's interesting is if you look 30 or 40 years ago, how we defined the ideal. You know, I understand and appreciate the Reverend's definition of ideal. I think that's come across very clear tonight. But if you look 30 or 40 years ago about the ideal, you talked about African Americans and whites marrying and them procreating and having children. And is that the ideal? And we're bringing this child into the world, and what experience and discrimination is this child going to face? And that's not what we should be doing. We should be keeping whites with whites and blacks with blacks. Now look where we are. I mean, how far we've come. We wouldn't be saying that, you know, a white woman and a black man who marry and have a child is not the ideal situation, and we certainly shouldn't.
Some do.
Some might.
I've done that show as well.
Yeah, right. In fact, I was supposed to be on that show. And I think we look at, there's no question that heterosexuals, I'm the first to admit, I've been saying it for 10 years, heterosexuals have destroyed the institution of marriage. When we have 50% of our couples that can't stay married, there's something wrong. So we as a culture, as a society, Lynn, have to decide, are we just going to, and one of your viewers said whatever, or I think one of the panelists said whatever. I mean, is it 2 men and 2 women, or can we even expand upon that? I mean, if we wanted to be free thinkers, maybe it's groups of people or whatever. So instead of, whatever, I mean, you know.
That's their ideal, by the way. One man,
I know,
many,
but
many
I'm
women.
saying that we all draw the line somewhere. I mean, Helen does, you do, Lynn. We all draw the line somewhere. I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we draw the line. I think society needs to draw the line at a mom and a dad. That's the standard. That's the norm.
Why is your standard and your ideal defining what society should be doing? That's what I don't understand.
I think nature defines that.
One man and many
women. Even if you cut faith out of it, I think that nature. I think that nature defines that.
Let the Reverend in, please.
As I talked about, nature abhors a vacuum. But let me talk about another point, and that is, I think, Bill, you're raising it, and that is, I do think that marriage and the heterosexual family is, in a sense, an ontological value. It's an ontological institution. It is what it is. And when you arbitrarily reconfigure it, there are consequences. Let me give you an illustration to bolster the point. I can think of another type of ontological value. It's a mathematical ontological value, and that is that 1 + 1 = 2. Now let's say, for argument's sake and just for being cute here, somebody came along and said, you know what, I want to make 1 + 1 = 3. Because, and I view it now as being 3. The question is, would that have consequences down the road? It could have consequences immediately. I could think of institutions that have a vested interest in changing the value of 2 to 3. That would be the IRS. You could just think of how much money they make suddenly as a result of that. But trying to be cute here, the point I'm making is when you arbitrarily change something.
Laws in nature.
Right. When you arbitrarily change something, as we're talking about here, there are ensuing consequences. And the other question that needs to be asked is, why stop at just 2 people, as Bill raised? It's a very good point. If we're going to just make it, 2 people of the same sex as long as they love each other, why not open it up right across the board to every kind of other
And Rev, just to jump in here, instead
of kind of
love. Yeah, Rev, instead of redefining marriage or redefining how we raise children, let's strengthen and have programs that will say, look, when you get married, it's till death do you part. Obviously, there's domestic abuse and so forth. But I think we need to say that there is a standard. There's been a standard for many thousands of years.
But there hasn't been a standard. Let's
focus in on that. Let's build healthy marriages.
Can I have a chance without the 2 men talking over me, please?
You got it, Lynne.
The fact is, you keep saying 10,000 years. It hasn't been 10,000 years ever. There hasn't been. Excuse me, Rev. Could you just stop for just a minute, sir? Maybe your standard is talking over somebody, but I would really appreciate your stopping for a minute. I'd like you to think about the laws in this country for years. In the 30s, when there was a divorce, the men got the children. It was always the men getting the children. So they didn't need a woman, they needed the man to get the children. If you look back in history over the last 200 years, it's gone back and forth as to which parent would get the children when there was a separation. So society has never said, oh, there'll be couples. Society has said at one point, the men should raise the children, and another point, the women should raise the children. It's never been, oh, you have to stay together and both raise the children. And as a practical matter, there have been absentee dads for years and years and years.
We call them
and should have come out well.
Let's go back to the telephone lines. A lot of people want to weigh in because everyone's making good points and they want to tell us what they think about it, including Jeanette. Jeanette, it's your call. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, hi, Lynn. I'm so happy that I can get you up here now in Vermont.
Oh, good. Glad to be there. Tell me what you think about this issue.
Well, I'm a single mom, and I have a 16-year-old son, and I've been raising him by myself. And I always said I can be the best mom on the planet, but I cannot be a man. And there are just certain things I'm finding out now that my son is a certain age. When he was younger, it wasn't so bad. I was very nurturing. We had great routines. I was a good role model. I have 7 sisters. I mean, I had plenty of women around, in terms of extended family to help out. But you know what? It didn't make the difference. I moved to Vermont to take care of my elderly mother. And, she's another woman in the home. But you know what? That doesn't make a difference. I believe in the traditional. I really, really believe we should be trying to work on keeping the family together, not reinventing it. And I'm not against, 2 women, loving, caring women who have children who are taking good care of them. I just don't think that there should be special laws or special privileges. I think it's a choice that they're making, and they know what it's going to entail. But as a mom, I can tell you right now, my son just turned 16. I wish to God he had a man, a good, decent role model in his life to help me out, somebody who really is dedicated to him.
You think
it's really difficult as a mom, and I'm a tough mom.
But you think the ideal of maintaining a traditional relationship is at least worth pursuing. You agree with that?
Right.
Even though you're not living it yourself right now, you agree with it. All right.
I wish I wanted to. I mean, my parents have been married for 55 years, and we have all the typical dysfunctions of any family, and but
that's another show, Jeanette.
I'm sorry.
That's another show.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for your call, and we're so glad to be seen in Vermont. There. Thank you. I have to take a quick break. They're going to cut us off, but thanks for your call. And when we come back, we'll have some more discussion about this very serious topic. Stay with us.
The gay couple wants to adopt a child. I have no problem with that.
I'm all for it. Very supportive.
I think if it's a safe, healthy, loving atmosphere, yeah, they can.
As long as they are good, decent people, I think that they should be able to do that.
That's what some people around the region had to say, but we're giving you an opportunity to tell us what you think here tonight on our topic. As you know, in this part of the show, we usually return to Bruce Casella, who is out in the community, but we're unable to return to him. Apparently, the folks at his location, his venue, didn't like the topic too much. But if you like it and you want to tell us what you think, there is still time for you to go and give us a call. And Dave has been waiting very patiently. Apparently, he must be interested in the topic, so we're going to take his call right now. Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm good, Lynn. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Tell me what you think about this this debate here.
Well, I would like to ask your panelists what the definition of love is. I mean, seriously, I'm a single father. I have two children myself, and I'm wondering if there's any difference in love between a man and a woman, two men, or two women. I believe that they would love the child and cherish the child the same way in a, quote, heterosexual relationship.
Okay, I would like to present that question first to the Reverend so that you can give us your answer to it, and then I'll return to the Philadelphia studio.
Sure. Well, I guess for me, all these kinds of questions ultimately have a moral impetus. So my definition of love is rooted in my theology. And to be very clear, the definition of love is the fulfillment of God's law. By the very nature of the case, two people of the same sex that can have a very intimate relationship cannot, by that nature, be engaged in a lawful, loving relationship.
It's interesting because my God taught me love, respect, and tolerance, and that's how I would define.
I believe in tolerance too, but tolerance does not mean acquiescence or concession. It
Thank you, Reverend. But that's my definition of love, and that's what my God taught me: love, respect, and tolerance.
All right.
Okay. Well, I tolerate as well. I'm tolerating.
Obviously, you're not, Reverend. You're not tolerating a non-traditional type lifestyle, and you're defining God's law.
I don't agree with it.
And I'd like to pick up with what David said. David is a single dad, and he's raising two children. And would you take the children away from him because he's single? Would you say that we have to license? Would you say that you have to license people to have children? So that would mean that a lesbian couldn't have a child because it doesn't have a license, and a single father would lose his children because he was single?
Argument.
Yeah,
no, that's a silly question.
Yeah.
You're predicating on an hominem argument here. I didn't suggest that we take the children away from him. We're talking about an ideal here. I grew up in a very difficult circumstance.
We're talking about your ideal.
No, but we're all talking about ideals.
You are. You're talking about your definition of ideal. We're talking about our definition of family and what it means.
Well, the question we're asking our viewers is which is best. If you want to tell us which side of this issue you agree with, go ahead and give us a call. I'm going to go back to the phones in just a moment, but many times people email us when the telephone lines are busy, so let's check in with the viewer email bag and see what you all have to say on our topic. Dana has written, strong adult support and guidance can help any child be, quote, whole. Yes, it would be nice to have two loving parents, but sometimes that's not an option. Robert has this to say: I am a single gay male who recently adopted a child. My sexual orientation is irrelevant to him, my son. And then America should be worried about the poor role models that children see in the media who make a mockery of marriage and parenthood.
Great point.
Another Dave has written, I think it is very okay for a gay couple to have children. What's the difference? What does it make? What difference does it make? Who cares as long as the child is loved and comforted? And Bill, earlier in the program, we put up a graphic that said 6 to 14 million children are living in homes either through conception or adoption of gay parents. Imagine that would be 6 to 14 million kids who didn't exist if these people didn't take them.
Well, obviously, I mean, I think you're talking about how do gay couples, lesbian couples get pregnant. It's not just the children.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying it's just harm's right. People that have taken them in. Isn't it better as someone who believes in God to say, hey, at least someone's taking care of these kids?
I go back to what we've been talking about all evening is what's the best thing in the interest of the child. We talked about love earlier, and what's the definition of love? Love is commitment. Love is not just an infatuation. You know, God's love to me was that he committed himself to me. It's a commitment. It's not necessarily a feeling. And I think in American culture, we blur the line between lust and love. So love is a commitment. I believe, and my position is a minority position, and I don't expect any of your...
It is tonight, apparently.
It is tonight, apparently. I don't think
Many times you've been in the majority, just not tonight.
And to say to children who are being adopted by gay and lesbian couples, I think the best thing that we can say to the children of America with the greatest amount of love, what's in the best interest of the children. I believe that I'll be done in a second, Lynn, every child in America has the right to be raised by a mother and by a father, not some other confabulation thereof.
Let me say something. We've done shows.
Let's talk about children's rights. We haven't raised that issue yet.
Yes, we have. I'm about to raise it. We've done shows over the years, and Lynne has been wonderful about this, about children who are damaged children. The National Adoption Center, of which I happen to be a board member, tries to place these hard-to-place kids, and a large percentage of them adopted by gay and lesbians. If these gay and lesbians did not adopt
single parents.
Excuse me, I'm talking about gays and lesbians right now. Adopted by gays and lesbians, if these children were not adopted by these gay and lesbian parents, they would continue to spend their childhood in foster homes. And when I put this to people on your side who say they shouldn't be raising the children, they say, well, we'll have to do better at this. But as we do better at this, 30 and 40 and 50 years go by, and these children are raised in foster homes. We should be so grateful to these gay and lesbian parents who stand up and take cerebral palsy children, abused children, who, little black babies who nobody wants, or little Hispanic babies who nobody wants. These people stand up and take them. Where are all the people, on your side who should be doing that?
Reverend, would you like to address that?
Where I live, if you come over to where I live, I know plenty of families that want to adopt and have no problem and do that right now. The problem with your position, Lynn, is that you're using anecdotal evidence to bolster your position. I know, for example, one lady, again, if we're going to use anecdotal, her name is Stefan Stefanovic, who grew up in a homosexual household, and it was an absolute disaster. And she and her brother were abused repeatedly. And you rarely hear about these cases, although we know they exist. So every time I listen to a gay activist, I only hear about the good and about how noble and virtuous the relationships are, when in reality, there's just as much strife and turmoil amongst your couples as there are amongst heterosexuals. So I don't think you can point to this, there's the reason there's more problems with heterosexuals, there's just more of us. But it's part of the human dilemma, right? The question ultimately comes back to the ideal. What is the ideal? Well, and that's what I'm striving at.
I'd like to follow up with that because we have talked about it throughout the entire evening. We're quickly running out of time, but very quickly, Reverend, if we're not doing such a good job as a society at the traditional standard, what's the answer then? I mean, we've seen the marriage and the divorce rate, escalate. Marriages are failing, left, right, and center. So what do we do as a society to make your ideal more realistic?
Right. Well, we analyze what the problem or the source of the problem is. The source of the problem is not the ideal or the traditional definition of a family and marriage. That's the ideal. The problem is our unwillingness to work towards that. And there's a whole host of issues. I mean, the reality is, since the 60s, since the sexual revolution, we've been denigrating moral standards right across the board. We haven't enforced them. We don't believe in absolutes anymore.
It's actually started way before that. It started way before that, Rev.
And
like after, how about Adam and Eve?
That could actually be an entire hour show by itself. What could be done to save the traditional family? I do have to take our last call very quickly. It comes from Tom. Tom, very quickly, as I go to this next break, tell me what you think.
Well, Lynn, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it. We've been talking about traditional and non-traditional homes. A question to the Reverend is, what's the difference between an interreligious marriage, when a Catholic marries a Jew, or an interracial, when a white marries a black? I mean, we're talking about providing kids homes that have love, shelter, food, upbringing, morals, and values. There's no difference between it.
All right, we'll give him a chance to answer that.
The question.
They'll all answer on the other side very quickly. Stay with us. Hear what they have to say. Going to give Bill Devlin a chance very quickly to respond to Tom's question. What's the difference with gays having kids between blacks and whites, or Jews and Christians, anybody of a different outlook?
Right. In a religious marriage, in different color marriage, there's a mother and a father. That's healthy for kids. And the other type of non-traditional, it's not healthy.
And yet some people think that as long as kids are in a loving environment, despite who their parents are, that's what really is healthy.
Absolutely. I hope my 2.5-year-old twins are healthy, and I think they are, because they're in our family.
You have to work harder when it's not two people from the same culture, male and female. That doesn't mean you can't do it.
And Reverend Tristan Emmanuel, do you think that the ideal that you've referred to many times through the show here is one that society will continue to embrace, or is it a lost cause?
Well, let me say, when you arbitrarily change or reconfigure an institution like marriage and the heterosexual family, it will have long-term negative consequences for society.
Okay.
And that's the question we're going to have to ask ourselves.
And that's a question that we can ask on another show. I hope you'll come back and join us again sometime. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Bill Devlin's always good to have you here.
Hey, Lynne, good to be on.
Lynne Gold Bikin, a longtime friend of this show, and Helen Cassell. Good luck with those kids.
Thank you very much.
And if you were unable to get through and you want to email any comment or question or anything from any member of our panel, you can email me at cn8.tv. Now, as you know, following me each and every night, as he always does, is Art Fennell. We're going to check in with him to see what he has for you coming up next. Hey, Art.
Hi, Lynn. Here's what we're working on for the report. We're asking people just how comfortable they are eating at fast food restaurants like Taco Bell these days in the wake of the E. coli scare. We'll talk about that and get some answers on the report.
Okay, and we'll see you tomorrow night when we talk about holidays and the Depression. Good night, everybody.